Greetings YouTube and welcome to the first episode of Transport Fever 2. This summer, Transport Fever 3 is coming out, and until then, we're going to play this map right here. It's a pre-made map. It's a Swiss map because I am from Switzerland, and yeah, we're gonna get right into it. So I will speed these things up. Of course, terraforming is a bit boring, so that's why it is 5 times faster now. So first, some greenery, deleting all the trees and the streets surrounding the area, making everything flat and plain. Then I will plop down a station. Transport Fever 2 does default to German infrastructure, and I don't like it. I mean, it's good on its own, but I prefer Swiss infrastructure. That's why I will delete all the tracks and replace it with Swiss tracks. I will also use Swiss signals and left-hand traffic. Now here I'm beginning to build the track apron in front of the station, and I like to keep the max speed in the station and like close around stations at 60 kilometers per hour. I think that is visually a good speed limit. I don't know about reality. Reality is always a bit different, but that's what I like to use, especially in like stations with no through tracks, which is the one here. And when building the track aprons, I always try to make each track in the station accessible from each track that is entering the station. So there are 2 tracks coming from the right here, and no matter if you're on the right or the left track, you can enter or exit the station from every track that is in the station. With some double slips and stuff. Very nice. Now I am making the station longer. The longest station I can build per default is 320 meters, but some of my intercity trains will run 400 meter long trains. That's why I make the station longer to 440 meters. So now we're on the other side. First the curve, and then onto a bridge over the river that's connecting to the lake here. I like to keep things relatively symmetrical. Well, in the furthest sense, of course. And maybe down along the line I will change stuff, but I think at least for now, everything will just stay the same as it was. This is a very, very annoying bug. It's still in the game. I hope Transport Fever 3 will fix it. I know sometimes it just bends the tracks unnecessarily in like crazy radii and stuff. It's so annoying. More double slips. Again, ensuring that every track is accessible from each point of entry. Now we are going to cross the river with a higher top speed. For the bridge, now I will do 100 kilometers per hour, and there are some great mods that provide pre-built bridges that I can just simply switch out the tracks. The bridges are very nice because most of the time they're better than the generated ones, but I've also got a lot of mods for these. They're segmented, so you can just plop them next to each other if you want, but I opted for one that spans the river nicely in one full go, not too big, not too short. Of course, making everything level. Oh, yeah, some lags. My PC isn't the best one, and I do have 600 mods downloaded into it, so sometimes, yeah, my game sometimes takes a while to really load in changes. And further along the line, it does get quicker, but yeah, bear with me here. So now I'm seeing that this leads into quite the hill, so I will build the tracks first. And as you can see, there's some collision going on because of the river that's so close to the track bed, but that is easily circumvented with the build with collision mod. One of the quality of life mods that I truly cannot live without. I don't think anyone could live without it who is trying to do some free building. And of course, in the curve, there is some reduced top speeds. I have gone with a radius that allows 80 kilometers per hour. Then, of course, flattening the terrain. And now opting for 200 kilometer per hour tracks. As most trains will run on 200 or lower. 200 is a nice top speed in my opinion. There are of course trains that I will be using that can reach higher than that, mostly 250, sometimes even 300 if we run trains from Germany. But as most of my rolling stock will be Swiss trains that won't drive 250 in real life anyways, 200 I think is a very nice top speed indeed. And now here running track along the shore of this lake will provide some great scenery down along the line. When we decorate all the tracks, of course with signals, trees, foliage, and something along the shore. And of course, I mean I am bulldozing all the roads, but eventually they will come back. Of course I won't be using dirt roads, but rather paved road, as dirt roads are a bit on the rarer side here in Switzerland. And I am basing most of my builds on real life. I try to mimic real life, but not copy, in the sense that I go to Google Maps, search up, I know we are now at Interlaken, so I won't search up Interlaken and try to rebuild the station, but it's more of my fantasy thing. But like I try to keep stuff a bit on the real side. Now next to the station I am currently building the narrow gauge station, but I forget of course to switch the tracks to narrow gauge. There's a mod pack that provides meter gauge tracks that I am using frequently because it's also like a Swiss mod, so it provides meter gauge Swiss tracks. And of course some depots. But now I'm realizing, oops, I used the wrong tracks, and switched to the right ones here. I think I will run, maybe on the meter gauge I will run some steam locomotives, but I will have everything electrified as per the reference of Switzerland. Here I am building the tracks that lead upwards from the narrow gauge station. These modes provide tracks with two different modes. One is the station track mode and one is the normal track mode. The station tracks have diminished top speeds for curves, which is very nice to limit the speed, because I don't want my narrow gauge engines to just run through there with 80 kilometers per hour, which is fairly unrealistic. Now, a newer mod, the ETS, the train tram mod that provides streets with an extra lane for trams, but I am using it to run my train track through them. This is inspired especially in Chur, where on the Arosa line parts of the track run through the city on the street right after the train station, which I am trying to emulate right here, because the cars will only drive on two left lanes and the right hand lane will be reserved for the train only, and it is a single track. And of course it is very easy to build tracks in here with the marker and parallel tool. And now I built a road with level sidewalks so that the tracks can be seen on the sidewalk. Of course, we need switches for the station, so each track is accessible. Nice little overview on how everything looks at the moment. And now we will continue on the right hand side. I will of course switch back to a higher top speed, back to 200 kilometers per hour along this shore. Again, weaving through the bends of the shore, just following it with the natural curves will lead for some nice footage further along the line when the trains are going to be running. As this is a scenic playthrough, I've disabled all costs. I can plop down and erase cities and industries. I mean, in my first playthroughs, I obviously played like the economy simulator, like really watching that every line makes profits and stuff. But now that doesn't really interest me anymore, and I've gone more into scenic building, or like how we say in German, Schönbau. Trying to make some builds that look like a model railway, just digital. And I just love running trains, and I will provide NPCs so the trains don't look empty, and I won't do any sort of economical, capitalistic kind of stuff, so I won't look at the profits of each line. I don't mind if they're going red. So just everything for just my autistic mind that likes trains. So we've got a station now, two actually, one for standard gauge and meter gauge, like the narrow gauge, and we have some tracks going on. Also a track on the street. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next episode.